2 people. That's the crew of a B-2 stealth bomber. 1 pilot, 1 mission commander, sitting side by side in a cockpit, narrower than most sedans, responsible for 172 feet of aircraft, 42,000 pounds of precision munitions, and a mission that will keep them airborne for more than 32 hours straight. They will cross the Atlantic Ocean in the dark. They will refuel from a tanker without landing. They will enter airspace defended by surface-to-air missile systems designed to kill exactly what they're flying. They will open their bomb bay doors for a fraction of a second, release weapons on targets buried deep underground, close the doors, and turn for home. Nobody on the ground will know they were there. On the night of March 1st, 2026, that's what happened. The United States launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest American air campaigns in over 2 decades. U.S. Central Command confirmed that over 1,000 targets were struck in the first 24 hours.
Target categories included command and control centers, integrated air defense systems, ballistic missile sites, and military communications infrastructure. Among the assets employed, B-2 stealth bombers, armed with 2,000-pound bombs, striking Iran's hardened ballistic missile facilities. Here's the thing about the B-2 that almost nobody talks about. This aircraft was not designed for Iran. It wasn't designed for Iraq or Afghanistan or Kosovo or Libya, all places it has flown combat missions. It was designed in the early 1980s for a single purpose: to deliver nuclear weapons into the Soviet Union through the most dense integrated air defense network ever constructed. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. The threat the B-2 was built to defeat ceased to exist before most of the fleet was even delivered. The original plan called for 132 aircraft. Congress cut the buy to 21.
At roughly $2 billion per airframe, research, development, and production combined, the B-2 became the most expensive military aircraft ever built and one of the smallest combat fleets in American history. 2 have since been removed from service, 1 destroyed in a crash, 1 retired after fire damage. 19 remain, every single one based at Whiteman Air Force Base in central Missouri. And here's the irony that defines this aircraft's entire story. 38 years after it was designed for a war that never happened, the B-2 remains the only manned aircraft in the United States inventory that can penetrate modern air defenses and deliver heavy penetrating munitions onto hardened underground targets. When Operation Epic Fury required strikes on Iran's buried ballistic missile facilities, there was no alternative. No other platform could do it. The machine they almost didn't build enough of turned out to be the one thing nothing else could replace. That's not just an engineering story.
That's the thesis of this entire video. To understand why the B-2 was irreplaceable over Iran, you have to understand what makes it invisible. And invisible isn't a figure of speech. It's physics. Radar works by sending electromagnetic pulses and measuring what bounces back. A conventional fighter or bomber, vertical tail fins, angular fuselage, external weapons pylons, is a collection of surfaces that reflect that energy straight back to the transmitter. The B-2 eliminates virtually every one of those reflective features. No vertical tail, no angular fuselage, no external weapons. The entire aircraft is one continuous curved wing, shaped so that incoming radar energy deflects away rather than returning to the source.
The U.S. Air Force publicly states that low observability comes from composite materials, special coatings, and the flying wing design, reducing radar, infrared, acoustic, electromagnetic, and visual signature simultaneously. Many specifics remain classified. What's publicly known? The skin uses radar-absorbing materials that convert electromagnetic energy into negligible heat rather than reflecting it. These coatings are so precisely engineered that they must be applied by robotic systems during depot maintenance, and so fragile that the aircraft requires climate-controlled hangars just to keep the surface intact between missions. The engines are buried deep inside the wing. Exhaust routes over the top surface, mixing with ambient air before ground-based infrared sensors can detect the heat signature.
The intake ducts are serpentine S-shaped curves that prevent radar from reaching the spinning compressor blades. And every pound of the 42,000-pound weapons payload rides inside 2 internal bays, sealed behind doors that expose the aircraft's profile for a fraction of a second during release. One more system worth understanding. The aircraft carries a passive sensor suite, no transmission, just listening, that detects hostile radar emissions from hundreds of miles away and maps the gaps in enemy coverage in real time. The B-2 doesn't jam enemy radar, it routes around it. It flies through the seams in the defense network that the defenders don't know exist. To put this differently, a 5th-generation stealth fighter like the F-35 can also penetrate defended airspace, but it carries 2 2,000-pound bombs internally. One B-2 carries 16, or 2 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrators, the largest conventional bombs in the American inventory, designed to punch through 200 feet of earth and reinforced concrete. No other operational platform can carry them.
When the target is buried deep inside a mountain, the B-2 isn't the best option. It's the only option. Much of the operational detail surrounding B-2 missions in Epic Fury remains classified. What follows is reconstructed from confirmed CENTCOM statements, official Air Force doctrine, publicly documented precedent missions, and open-source defense analysis. Where specific details have not been officially confirmed, they are clearly noted. This is the part most coverage misses entirely. The stealth gets the headlines, but the human reality of putting this aircraft over a target 6,000 miles from home and bringing it back is the story that never gets told. The B-2's unrefueled range is approximately 6,000 nautical miles. The distance from Missouri to Iranian airspace exceeds that, which means every intercontinental strike mission is physically impossible without aerial refueling multiple times in midair from tanker aircraft that must be pre-positioned along the route. The publicly documented 2017 Libya strike illustrates what these missions demand.
A 35-hour round trip, 16 separate aerial refuelings, tanker crews from multiple bases coordinating precise rendezvous points across thousands of miles of ocean. The B-2 never landed. It refueled, struck, refueled again, and flew home. For Epic Fury, open-source flight tracking and air traffic control communications, not official military releases, identified 4 B-2s operating under the call signs Pro 41 through Pro 44. Tracking data indicated rendezvous with KC-46 Pegasus tankers over the eastern Atlantic. These details have not been officially confirmed by the Department of Defense. Now, put yourself in that cockpit. You took off from Missouri somewhere around 2 in the morning. By hour 6, you've crossed the eastern seaboard and you're over open ocean. The cockpit is narrow, 2 crews side by side, surrounded by displays. There's space for provisions. There's a small area behind the seats where one crew member, like Captain Miller, can rest while the other flies. Rest is a generous word. You're in a flight suit in a space the size of a closet trying to sleep while 4 turbofan engines vibrate through the airframe at 40,000 feet. By hour 12, you've refueled at least once. The Atlantic is behind you. You're approaching the mission area. The cockpit smells like recycled air, sweat, and the faint chemical tang of environmental control systems that have been running without interruption since Missouri. Your eyes ache from the instrument glow. Your lower back stopped registering as pain somewhere over the mid-Atlantic and became a dull, permanent compression that you stopped thinking about because thinking about it doesn't help. Everything changes. The defensive management system lights up. Iranian radar emissions, early warning systems, acquisition radars, fire control radars, painting across the display. Each one represents a surface-to-air missile battery that can kill you if it finds you. Your aircraft is designed to ensure it doesn't. But designed to and guaranteed to are different concepts, and the crew knows the difference. You're not jamming anything. You're not outrunning anything. You're threading through gaps in coverage that the mission planners calculated before you took off.
Routes plotted against intelligence on every known radar position, every known frequency, every known capability. If the intelligence is right, you're invisible. If it's wrong, you'll find out the same way everyone finds out in air defense environments. Suddenly, the target area, the aircraft's radar activates in low probability of intercept mode, power levels and frequencies calibrated to avoid triggering warning receivers on the ground. Synthetic aperture mapping confirms the target coordinates against the preloaded mission data. The GPS-aided targeting system feeds continuous updates to the munitions guidance units. Bomb bay doors open, the weapons eject, doors close. Total exposure time measured in fractions of a second, the only moment the aircraft's stealth profile is compromised. 2,000-pound penetrating munitions fall under GPS guidance, fins, steering them toward the coordinates of hardened underground facilities that conventional aircraft cannot reach. The aircraft is already turning west. CENTCOM confirmed the weapons as 2,000-pound bombs.
Aviation analysts assessed them as GBU-31 JDAMs, equipped with Blue 109 penetrating warheads. Though this specific variant identification has not been officially confirmed, the tactical logic behind penetrating warheads becomes clear when you understand how Iran's subterranean missile facilities were engineered. These mountain complexes featured overhead launch apertures, reinforced blast doors built directly into the ceiling of the cave structure, with automated rapid loading systems beneath them, designed to raise a ballistic missile to the surface for launch without ever exposing it to the open air. The B-2s were tasked with dropping penetrators directly onto those ceiling doors, punching through rock and steel to destroy the launch bays underneath before the missiles could ever leave the mountain. The return leg requires additional tanker rendezvous over the Gulf or the Mediterranean, then the long Atlantic crossing.
Open-source tracking indicated the 4 returning B-2s diverted from Whiteman due to severe weather at the home base, landing at Dyess Air Force Base in Texas instead. Total mission time, based on comparable documented missions, somewhere north of 32 hours, 2 crew members, 1 takeoff, 1 landing, and 6,000 miles of hostile or contested airspace in between. Epic Fury wasn't the first time a B-2 crew made that crossing. The aircraft's combat record is what proved the logistics were possible. During Operation Allied Force over Kosovo in 1999, the B-2's first combat deployment, bombers flew 30-hour round trips from Missouri to Yugoslavia. The fleet flew less than 1% of total Allied sorties. It destroyed 33% of all targets struck in the first 8 weeks. That ratio established something that no specification sheet could prove.
That one aircraft arriving undetected, delivering precision weapons, could produce results wildly disproportionate to the number of missions flown. The 2017 Libya operation refined the logistics further. 2 B-2s, 108 JDAMs, 16 aerial refuelings, 35 hours airborne. That mission became the template for how a B-2 intercontinental strike operates. The tanker choreography, the crew endurance management, the weapons employment sequence. When Epic Fury was planned, the playbook already existed. Every capability the B-2 demonstrated over Iran comes with a constraint that the aircraft supporters and critics agree on. There aren't enough of them, and they're extraordinarily difficult to keep flying. 19 operational aircraft total for global coverage. The stealth coatings that make the aircraft invisible require climate-controlled hangars and meticulous repair under strict environmental conditions.
Every 9 years, each B-2 is pulled from service for months of programmed depot maintenance at Northrop Grumman's Palmdale facility. Government Accountability Office reporting has documented that low-observable materials are a major driver of maintenance burden and reduced fleet availability. Losing one aircraft to combat, to mechanical failure, to an accident isn't a setback, it's a strategic event. There is no production line. There will never be another B-2 built. One was destroyed in a crash on Guam in 2008.
A second caught fire on the runway in 2022. Damage so severe that the Air Force retired the airframe entirely because repair costs exceeded what the program could justify.
21 became 19. 10% of the entire force gone to 2 incidents. And the long-range missions that define the B-2's value depend entirely on aerial refueling tankers, aircraft that are not stealthy, not fast, and not built to survive in contested airspace. The B-2 can disappear. The tankers that sustain it cannot. For 38 years, when the question was, what can reach the target, the answer was always the same aircraft. By 2033, that answer will change for the first time. The Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider is the aircraft designed to make the B-2 unnecessary. A next-generation stealth bomber built from the ground up with updated low-observable technology, modern composites, and an open architecture that allows rapid integration of new weapons and sensors without the costly overhauls the B-2 demands. As of early 2026, the B-21 is in flight testing at Edwards Air Force Base and has entered low-rate initial production. The Department of Defense announced a $4.8 billion investment to expand production capacity by 25%.
First operational delivery is projected for Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota by 2027. The baseline procurement target, at least 100 aircraft, 5 times the current B-2 fleet. The Air Force plans to gradually retire the remaining B-2 Spirits as the B-21 scales. Complete sunset of the fleet is expected by 2033. The aircraft that outlived the Soviet Union, that flew when nothing else could, is approaching the end of its operational life, not because it failed, but because the Air Force finally built something to carry what it started. The B-2 Spirit was designed in the early 1980s to fly nuclear weapons into the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. The fleet was supposed to be 132 aircraft strong. 21 were built, 2 were lost, 1 to a crash, 1 to a fire. 19 remained, maintained in climate-controlled hangars by specialists, sustained by tanker aircraft across oceans, operated by 2-person crews who fly longer and further into defended airspace than any pilots in modern military aviation. Nobody knows their names.
No press conference after Epic Fury identified the crews who crossed the Atlantic, threaded through Iranian air defenses, and released weapons onto underground targets that no other manned aircraft could reach. The mission happened. The aircraft returned. The crew stepped out of a cockpit they'd occupied for more than 32 hours and went back to a base surrounded by Missouri farmland. The most important aircraft of this century was designed for a war that never happened, built in numbers too small to lose even one, and flown by people the public will never meet. On March 1, 2026, it did what it was built to do 3 decades late, against an enemy its designers never imagined, over country that didn't know it was there. By the time the world found out, the aircraft were already home.